All right, hey everybody, this is Rosh, and you're watching FM3 Basics. This is a YouTube tutorial series I'm putting together to help new and experienced users program their Fractal audio products, including the FM3, the FM9, and the FX3. You can check out some of those tutorials on this YouTube channel, as well as FM3Basics.com, FM9Basics.com, and FX3Basics.com. So, a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I am a guitar player and guitar tech out here in the Los Angeles area. I build and program a lot of guitar rigs for a lot of different clients. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, A Perfect Circle, Bush, and more. So I wanted to give back to the Fractal community and show some tips and tricks on how to set up all your Fractal products. So if you've been watching this, the latest videos on this YouTube channel, I have been going over some live setups. So this format's going to be slightly different than some of my previous videos. And basically, this is all about just, different situations that you're going to be using the FM3 live. So as a working musician in LA, I'm presented with a lot of different challenges and a lot of different situations of amplifying my guitar signal. So some venues provide backlines, some venues I'm actually bringing the PA and setting everything up. Some venues, they have a house sound engineer and I can run direct, or I can use a backline amp, or I can use a combination of all these different things. Sometimes I'm going to be running in-ears, sometimes it might be some kind of outdoor situation, and I'm not really sure what type of amplification they're going to have. So I'll bring, a speaker wedge and in my in-ears, or sometimes I want to run, with a guitar cabinet and a power amp. Really a lot of varied situations. Now, the great thing about all the Fractal products is they're very versatile, and you can use the same preset for a lot of different situations. So you don't need to program like 100 presets to get through a gig. So in this particular video, what we're going to be covering is I'm actually going to be running fully direct with my FM3. So I'm going to be playing, just like a corner of a bar. I'm bringing the PA, I'm setting everything up. And then of course, it's going to be just kind of like a very small format kind of band. It's just like a trio, guitar, bass, and drums. And then I wanted to walk through, how to like set things up for that. So if you watched my previous FM3 video, I was talking about running into, a tube amp or the effects return of a tube amp. In this case, I'm using the same exact preset. This is one of the advantages of a lot of the Fractal products. Once you set up the preset correctly, you don't need to make a new preset for different type of, gigging or amplification situations. In this case, basically, I'm just going out of an input block into a wah that's controlled with an expression pedal, a drive block. These are different overdrives depending on what kind of scene I'm using. So I have a clean scene, a crunch scene, a mid-gain scene, a high-gain scene, and then 2 lead sounds. And in this particular case, I'm actually using the X-Sonic air step to switch between all the scenes. And then I use the switches on the FM3 to just turn on effects and have a tap tempo and stuff like that. Then after coming out of the amp block, the amp is basically like, 4 separate things. I got like a deluxe reverb, then I'm using like some kind of like Vox crunchy thing, a Marshall sound, a high gain Marshall. And then the lead sounds are basically, the high gain Marshall sounds with like an overdrive pedal in front. Then I'm coming into a volume block, and the volume block is before my time-based effects. And this allows me to do volume swells, those kinds of things, as well as since it comes after the amp block, I can roll off the volume without affecting the gain of the amp. So if I want to like clean up the amp for any reason, clean it up a little bit, I'll just use the volume knob on my guitar, roll that back a little bit. But putting the volume block after the amp allows you to control the volume of the amp without affecting the gain, and then you still have, trails from your delay and reverb. And this filter block is just a solo boost, a volume boost right here by about 3 dB. So I can turn that on at will if I just need to bring a guitar part a little louder, and then I can turn it off. I, of course, can make any fine adjustments with my volume pedal as well, but I like having a button where if a lead line needs to just kind of stand out for 2 seconds, I can just press the button. Or if I'm doing a guitar solo, this will, just be louder. And then I go into the cab block going out of output 1. Now, if you watch my previous video talking about how to run into an effects return or a power amp, you'll see that I split off into output 2 here and I go out of a shunt. In this case, in this particular, amplification situation, I'm not even using output 2. The cool thing though is it's there, it's already set up in case I want to run into a tube amp, run into the effect return of a backline amp, run into a power amp and cabinet situation, or any combination of the above. And then what I'm doing is I'm just running out of output 1, and I'm going directly into a Behringer X32 mixer. And then I'm actually controlling the mix. Now, on stage, what I have is my RCF NX12 SMA. And since it's a pretty small bar, I'm just having that one speaker wedge face the band. We're, set up pretty close together. We can all hear each other. And basically, my guitar is going to be coming back through that wedge, as well as a mix of the vocals. So everybody in the band sings so they can hear themselves. And so that, they can hear, the guitar, they can hear whatever they need. And I can just adjust the mix on the fly that's going into the wedge. And then, of course, by using the Behringer mixer, I'm also having guitar come out of the, the PA speakers, which are a pair of QSC K12s. So that's pretty much it. When you run direct and you have a speaker wedge, if you can dial in your own mix because you bring your own mixer and PA situation to the gig, then all you have to do is just send guitar back through the wedge. If you have a front of house engineer, again, you can run direct. They're going to route your guitar back to whatever the speaker wedges that are there provided by the venue, or, whatever the gigging situation is. Really great setup, really easy to set up. And, a lot of flexibility. Now, the difference between the FM3 and the FM9 is that the FM3 only has 2 outputs that are stereo rather than 3 outputs that are stereo. So one of the situations that you may run into is that you need to turn up the volume of what's happening on stage, but it's also going to affect the front of house mix. So there's a couple different ways to kind of get around this situation if you want to go through with that. But basically what you can do is if you go into the setup, instead of having output 2 be unity gain here, what you can do is set this to output to copy, and then you can clone output 1 coming out of the 1/4 inches out of the back of the FM3. And then what happens with that is that output 1 and output 2 are clones of each other. So with the FM9, that's kind of generally what I do, but with the FM3, you're limited to these 2 stereo outs. Now, coming out of the 1/4 inches, since they're copies of each other, you can, adjust each one independently. So since they're 1/4 inches, you may have to use like some type of conversion or a DI to get into, a full range cabinet that's going to be only for you. I will cover that type of setup in the future in a different situation. But for this particular setup, since we're just running direct, I'm going to leave that at none. Go to unity gain again. We don't really need to worry about output 2 since we're not using any of this. And then output 1, I do copy left or right because I generally run mono. On the occasion that I do get to run stereo, of course, I would select stereo there. But in this case, I'm just running mono. Super simple setup, running direct. Most of the heavy lifting is going to be done by the front of house sound engineer, or if you're setting up your own PA and running the mix from the stage, you're going to be doing that through your mixer, etc. So I'm going to transition this video to the on-site video, and I'll walk you through a little bit of like a live rig rundown, what I'm using the FM3 live, running direct through my own PA, through whatever. But again, you can also do this if you're, playing in a venue that has a house sound engineer.
All right, everybody. So this is going to be another rig rundown for an FM3 setup. This time, I'm going to actually be running direct out of the FM3. So here is my FM3. I got my 2 expression pedals, and then I'm using this AirStep MIDI controller. It's really great. But basically, it's like a little external MIDI controller, Bluetooth controller. And then you can ignore that pedal. That's just for turning pages on my charts, but you can actually use the AirStep for that too, but I just have them separate. This is only controlling the FM3 for this particular setup. Obviously, it's kind of a mess with cables, and we got some cases and stuff over here, so we're going to take care of that in a little bit. But basically what I'm doing is I'm running the FM3 direct, and then it's going into this X32 Behringer rack mixer. And what we're doing is, of course, I'm running direct into that. All the vocals and everything else is going to be running into this mixer. And then we're going to be sending the mix back through this RCF NX12 SMA wedge. And that's, for just a stage volume. We're kind of in the corner of the bar right now. And then I got my guitar going direct into the PA speakers, which are QSC K12s that are just mounted on stands. And then I'm kind of like linked up into the bar as well. The bar's PA system. So everybody's going to get a little bit of my guitar But mainly on stage, what's coming out of this RCF is actually like a full stage mix. So vocals are going to be coming out of there and everything like that. As you can tell, we're pretty much like in a corner of this kind of bar situation. So we only need one wedge on stage. But basically everything's going right into the mixer. Got a mess of cables over there and then out of this. So once we're done with sound check, we're going to clean this little area up and take care of that. But in the meantime, that's a basic setup. This is what you would refer to as the running direct kind of setup. So you're running direct to front of house, you're getting a feed mix back from your wedges as well as mix going out in the PA.
All right, so thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys need any help, if there's any videos or content you would like me to make, any questions that you have, please feel free to leave a comment below. I do a lot of one-on-one consults and one-on-one consultations and sessions. And if you need any help, feel free to contact me directly and we can, set something up remotely where I can program any of your Fractal units. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.